Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are diving into a really interesting topic, the recent visit of Mohamed Muizzu, the President of Maldives, to India. Now this isn't just any diplomatic visit. There's a whole sequence of events that brings up some important ethical issues, especially for us preparing for UPSC GS4 Ethics. Let's break it down step by step. Mohamed Muizzu recently became the President of Maldives, and his visit to India is making headlines. This is significant because Muizzu has been labeled as pro-China, which raises concerns for India regarding its influence in the Indian Ocean region. Historically, the previous Maldives government, led by the MDP, Maldivian Democratic Party, had closer ties with India. But Muizzu's stance makes this visit critical in maintaining or renegotiating diplomatic relations. During this visit, Muizzu met with our Prime Minister in Delhi. While his visit aims to strengthen ties between the two nations, it's also a delicate balancing act. India, as a regional power, has always had strategic interest in Maldives, but now we need to navigate Muizzu's pro-China leanings carefully. Now let's get into the ethical aspects involved here. We'll look at this from the perspective of various stakeholders. First is the Indian government. India needs to handle this diplomatically and ethically. The main ethical challenge here is balancing national interest with respecting the sovereignty of a neighboring country. Should India be overtly concerned about Muizzu's pro-China stance, or should it treat the Maldives as a sovereign nation capable of making its own decisions? This also raises the ethical question of international diplomacy. Should a country try to influence the internal political dynamics of another country for its own strategic interest? There's a thin line between influence and interference here. Second stakeholder is Maldivian government. For Muizzu and his government, the ethical issue revolves around loyalty to the people who elected him. Should he favor China as his stance suggests, or should he maintain a balanced relationship with both India and China? This is where ethical leadership comes in, as a leader must ensure that foreign relations are in the best interest of the nation's future. Third are the people of Maldives. The people are often caught in the middle of these diplomatic tug-of-war. An ethical concern here is whether the government's foreign policies truly reflect the will and well-being of its people, or if they are influenced by external powers. This is a case of public interest versus political alignment. Fourth is China's role. China's involvement in Maldives could be seen as an ethical dilemma as well. Should a powerful country like China exert its influence over smaller nations to gain strategic advantage? Here we touch on the ethical issues of fair international relations. Should bigger nations use their economic power to manipulate smaller ones? Or should they practice fair diplomacy? Now, what is the relevance to UPSC GS4 ethics paper? This topic is incredibly relevant to the ethics syllabus for UPSC, especially under the following section. First, ethics in international relations. This visit is a classic example of the ethical dilemmas faced in foreign policy and international diplomacy. Ethical leadership and accountability. Both the Indian and Maldivian governments are dealing with ethical leadership challenges. Muizzu's loyalty to his people versus global pressures is a good example of this. Third is conflict of interest. The diplomatic balancing act between China and India in Maldives policies brings up the question of conflict of interest on a global scale. Now, where can you use this topic as example in your ethics answer writing? When writing answers for UPSC GS4, you can use this case to explain first how ethical diplomacy works when balancing national interest with respect for other nations' sovereignty. Second, the concept of fair international relations, where bigger powers should not unduly influence smaller nations. Third, how ethical leadership plays a key role in maintaining balanced foreign relations for the long-term well-being of a nation's people. In conclusion, this visit by Mohamed Muizzu to India is more than just a diplomatic event. It highlights deep ethical challenges that involve international diplomacy, leadership, and public interest, all of which are crucial topic for UPSC ethics paper. Remember, understanding these real-world events through an ethical lens not only helps in exam but also in developing a more nuanced view of global affairs. If you found this analysis helpful, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Stay tuned for more insightful breakdowns on current events and how they relate to UPSC ethics.